This short video focuses on how the Anglo-Saxons lived in England. You might also be interested in my video giving a short timeline of Anglo-Saxon history and my video on Anglo-Saxon government, religion, and learning. Anglo-Saxons, overwhelmingly, lived a rural lifestyle. Towns existed as trading centers, but few people lived in them. They mostly came alive when people had things to trade. Most people farmed. The economy was largely agricultural. There were skilled artisans, some of whose art you can see a little in the video covering government, religion, and learning. The warriors were the elites. These were men who didn't have to farm and could afford weapons and take the time to learn to use them. Their lives were literally worth more than those of peasants. Fighting was not done from horseback at this time, it was done on foot. Until relatively late in the period, they didn't have stirrups to keep them on a horse in a fight. Most people were peasants, churlas or churls. They could be bound to the land and often needed the lord's permission to marry or to move, but they were not slaves. They could earn money and own property, though peasants rarely owned land. There were also peasants who seemed to be free peasants, simply farming an area for themselves. Anglo-Saxon England did have slaves, but the system of slavery differed greatly from that in the United States. Most were taken captive or sold for debt, not born slaves. They could earn and keep money, and they could buy themselves out of slavery. They had legal rights and protections. Slavery died out before the end of the Anglo-Saxon era. Kin were crucial, especially early in the period. The kin would be the ones to arrange marriages. They protected women, children, and the family in general. When the men went to court, kin acted as oath helpers. Verdicts were decided by who had the weightiest oaths, which depended on both the number and the social status of the men taking oaths. All this was necessary because government was not highly developed, as we'll see in the government video. The king's reach did not extend to every corner of Anglo-Saxon England, and the king was very far away. You didn't count on the king or even the lord to protect your family and help you in court. You counted on your family. And when you couldn't protect them, feud and weregild were the last resort. Weregild is literally man money. It's what one pays a family or a person to make up for death or injury. It's an alternative to feud. Without weregild, kin often resorted to feud. You killed a member of my family, so I'll kill a member of yours. Or you mutilated a member of my family, so I'll mutilate a member of yours. As you can imagine, a lot of kin did not simply stand by and let someone take retribution. And that could mean that matters quickly escalated. The attacking family killed two instead of one, or killed someone instead of taking an arm for an arm. Then the family who had lost the extra person would feud against them, and so on. Weregild helped to keep feud under control. Where we have them recorded in law, fines involved increased with the severity of an injury, with death, of course, being the worst. Warriors were worth more than peasants. Women who were pregnant or of childbearing age were sometimes worth more than their husbands, whose social status they would otherwise hold. In Beowulf, the failure of Grendel, his mother, and the dragon to offer any kind of repayment for the lives they have taken is a problem for the characters, solved by the deaths of the attackers. People generally lived in simple buildings, almost all of wood, often sunken into the ground. Wikipedia has some good images from Westow Anglo-Saxon village, an attempt to recreate Anglo-Saxon living conditions. All of the ones I'm showing have been uploaded by Midnight Blue Owl. As you can see, the buildings are small. They don't have windows, just doors. Some of them are sunken into the ground. The third and fourth pictures show a reconstructed hall with a fire pit at the center. This is not very big either. The halls would have benches and chairs that could be set up for eating and cleared for sleeping. For some unusually large halls, the kind imagined at Beowulf, we can see the illustration of how the large hall at Lejre, Denmark might have looked. This one was drawn by Haller Schmidt for Jesse Byock's book, and it's a diagram, including the fire pit. And here is a reconstructed hall in the Viking Museum in Norway, photographed by Jörg Hempel. The people who ate in the hall would generally be the lord and his men, and some of the women of high status, as we see in Beowulf. Most people would never eat in the hall. Servants would serve there, however, and the hall would be a central point in the landscape for anyone living in the area or traveling through. I hope you've enjoyed and learned something from this brief introduction to lifestyles of the Anglo-Saxons. You might also want to watch my videos on a timeline of Anglo-Saxon history and on Anglo-Saxon government, religion, and learning. Thank you for watching.